Erosion, we mostly have left behind depositional features that are indicative of a glacial landscape. And as I said, Ohio, um, 3/4 of Ohio is a glacially deposited landscape, which is really important to the amenities that the landscape has provided for agriculture and for industry for Ohio. So super, super critical. So here's this glacier which is in retreat, and because it's melting, we've got all these rivers that are coming out of these glaciers, and those are going to leave behind lovely fine grain materials in these braided areas that are going to be fantastic for agriculture. The material which gets deposited when the glacier really slows down. Remember, we said that the faster and the more mass something has, the bigger the stuff is that can get deposited and picked up. So we deposit big stuff in these end moraines, in lateral moraines, which is sands and gravels that are available for use. We get lakes that are deposited, that are created, that are going to create lacustrine deposits. Again, really fine grained material, which is beautiful for agriculture. We get something called a till, which is a mixture of fine to coarse grain material that gets spread across the landscape. The till in Ohio, particularly eastern Ohio, has afforded aquifers for fresh water for Ohioans, which is really important. Those kettle lakes, we said, produce places of wetlands. Wetlands have really important ecological function for humans in terms of filtration of water, habitat for plants and animals, and peat, which has been harvested for centuries. So we get things like that. Eskers, which is diagrammed right here, we said is the byproduct of a river that flowed underneath the glacier. And eskers are a whole lot like end moraines, all right? Just think of them as linear features that have a lot of big gravel deposits. The really nice thing about eskers is that the sands and gravels are sorted by size. So if you're coming in to harvest or mine an esker, you don't have to do a lot of work to clean it. So you can select the size of the material that you need for construction. We also have deltas. Think of a delta the exact same way that we have a delta that we talked about with Bird's Nest Delta, which is part of the Mississippi, or a fan delta. And then those outwashes are those braided streams that we talked about. All of these are the same as with fluvial geomorphology. Some of these features look like this today. I'll start with this feature right here. This is an esker. So this used to be an old river under the glacier. We've got a whole bunch of water bodies left behind, which are our kettle lakes. On this side, this is actually a rock called Big Rock, and you can see by the footpath, which is about 5 to 7 feet wide, that this is a pretty significantly large structure which was carried on the top of a glacier. And if you take a look at the landscape around it, you can tell it's on the prairie. This big chunk of mountain was deposited out on the prairie. It traveled about 500 miles, and this is one of several of these that got deposited. This neat feature is a drumlin, and what happened was a big piece of rock that couldn't be eroded is sitting right here, and a whole bunch of debris got deposited behind the drumlin as the glacier, or pardon me, behind the rock, creating a drumlin as the glacier was moving in this direction. This is what glacial till looks like. You can see that it is really not sorted. Industry still loves glacial till. We can, harvest this material, but industry has to clean and sort the material out. This is a roche montagnée, and this is actually a remnant feature. This is a really hard rock that the glacier wasn't able to erode, and the glacier was moving in this direction, so it polishes this side, and then we've got a drop off on the other side here, and then we've got what is left of a kettle lake. So this lake is the same as these lakes up here, but this is what it looks like soon after the glacier has melted, before we can see the return of vegetation.